10, 9, ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
The clock is operating. We're underway.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And we reverently make our way into episode 15 of Kerbalcast. Gone, but not forgotten.
Make your life spectacular. I know I did.
Yes, you did. It's our special tribute to Robin Williams. I am your LMP, that's Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin, and with us as always, our CMP, Command Module Pilot,
Nostromo.
Coming up in today's program,
We'll update you on our progress within the game.
and Dark Mushroom is back with another edition of Dark Matter, where he answers your questions.
In the Modders Minute, DK from the Twitch channel Declarations tells us about the enhanced navball.
And we'll have your letters in the crew report and news in the mission briefing.
And another episode of
As the Kerbin Turns. Well, did you notice the new addition to the show this week? Modders Minute.
There we go.
See, somebody said we want to hear more about mods, and we responded.
Yeah, knock and it shall be opened unto you.
Yeah. So you get a pass this week on the progress report because you went on a long trip.
Yeah, I went on an extensive vacation.
Yeah.
I was in Indianapolis at Gen Con, which is the largest board game convention in North America.
And I know you were in hog heaven.
Yeah, it was. That's my bread and butter. That's what I was all about.
Nos is a big fan of board games.
Yeah, I'm a big collector of them, and I've been working on designing some of my own. So I was also there to meet with publishers on the chance that maybe mine would get published. So I'm
going to cross all of my fingers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cross my toes.
Oh, okay.
And you know what?
Hey, that's impressive.
Yeah, I'm even going to cross my eyes.
Oh. Well, all right. Good luck in editing. Let's hope it goes over right.
Well, as long as I don't cross my ears, I'm okay.
I will say that I did see somebody with a Kerbal shirt. That was
Did
cool.
you really?
Yeah, he was going the opposite way, and like we're in a mass crowd of like 30,000 people. So
Right.
I was like, hey, oh, all right.
And a roving gang of board game enthusiasts was beating him up, right?
Yeah. So none of that.
Taking his lunch money.
Yeah, none of that video game stuff here. There's actually some video games there. It's pretty cool. They have a little bit of everything, really. It's kind of like how Comic-Con has everything.
Yeah.
And they just have smaller portions of things that aren't comics or movies and stuff. Like they have board game areas. They're just not as big.
Oh, I gotta know. Booth babes?
Yeah.
They have booth babes?
Uh-huh.
All right. Do they wear like Monopoly?
They dress like characters from the games, and all of the games that do have booth babes at them, they're all games that are usually about women who aren't wearing much. So there you go. I'm just gonna let the imagination run wild. Look up Gen Con cosplay and you'll see something.
I had this image of some like really hot busty chick dressed up like the tycoon from Monopoly. It'd be like the one time I've ever seen a mustache on a woman and actually, been turned on by it.
I was like, oh man, that booth babe. I bet she's pretty hot, but she's inside that giant sorry piece. She's like,
Sorry.
She's dressed as the shoe from Monopoly.
No, that's what she thinks of the people looking at her.
Yeah.
You're sorry.
Now,
Loser.
It was kind of cool because I had a Twitter takeover, a couple weeks ago where I was like,
Twitter takeover?
Yeah, we're on our Twitter. I was talking about board games.
Okay.
Yeah, so we share the
I thought
Twitter.
you meant like our Twitter feed got hacked or
Oh,
something.
no. But for a little bit, I was like, I want to post about board games. So I posted about some space board games I like. One of them was Destination Neptune, which wasn't out yet. It was going to be out at Gen Con, they had it for sale.
What is that?
The way they describe it, it's a board game representing an optimistic view of the next 100 years of space travel.
Okay.
So the kind of game that it is it's a Euro game, which whenever you get into hobby board gaming, there's two big classifications, whether it's called Euro or Ameritrash. And
Gee, wonder what that means.
yeah, if it's an Ameritrash game, that means there's a lot of random variables, like like Monopoly, any
Right.
of those. They all have
Right.
dice. They all have cards, or there's
Gotcha.
always something that will make somebody who's doing poorly could do very well. Somebody who's doing well could do poorly, and it's like you can plan to a certain extent, but there is always chance of luck.
Gotcha.
Euro
So
games.
some of the skill is taken out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, skill and luck can sort of play hand in hand. Sometimes more luck than skill. Now with a Euro game, you actually have as few random variables as possible. The only thing that is usually in there's hardly ever dice, and sometimes there are cards, and so you can draw cards, and so cards are a little bit random, but for the most part, it's you have so many actions you can do, and most of them are where an Ameritrash game can be very thematic, like oh, you're flying through space, or you're some sort of like police, like catching criminals, or you're saving people from a burning building.
It's interesting because there's that phrase Eurotrash.
Yeah.
And here you've got Ameritrash.
Yeah, it transferred over to us.
Okay.
and then the European game, more European style games, they usually don't have a very like strong theme. Most of them are like you're farming, or you're trading goods in the Mediterranean or something.
Settlers of Catan.
There you go. But that does have a die in it. So
yeah.
But
it's also there's a lot of resource trading.
Yeah, so it's not like the die is not a major like destructive factor in the outcome of the game.
Right.
So Destination Neptune is a Euro game. So there are cards, but otherwise there's no like that's a big random variable. But otherwise it's just you have action points you allocate. And so
is it the cardboard Kerbal?
Almost.
Does it have a podcast? Huh?
No. No.
Okay.
So whenever you're playing it, there's basically the board is a bunch of planets, and it's all the planets in our solar system.
Okay.
And you play private corporations that are trying to establish colonies or resource gathering operations on all the other planets in our solar system.
Cool.
So
are there asteroids?
I think there are asteroid fields you have to navigate and stuff.
Okay.
But like the distance traveling between them is pretty basic.
I just wonder if there was asteroid mining.
Yeah, and there's each planet has like certain moons that you can mine on or build settlements on, and they have different little skill trees you can build off in. And there are big interesting points is your private corporations that are doing this. So they're already assuming it's going to be private corporations that are settling space. And you only get points if you're the first one to do it. So if you're the first one to land on, Titan, you get points for it. If you're the second guy, you don't.
In the immortal words of Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're the first to build a colony, you get points there. If you're the first to build a mining operation, you get points there. And
it's an actual board game.
It is.
It actually has a board.
Yeah, a board and like little chips and little tiny rockets that you.
Because I know some of what we call board games that don't actually have a board.
Yeah, like there'll be like a card game where it's like oh, it's a board game, and it's
and you
funny.
go, where's the board?
There's this huge divide on board and card games where somebody's like, oh, it's a board game. Like, no, it's a card game. So then when you try to look something up, like you'll say, hey, do you have a game like this? Like, well, board or
you
card game?
You got chocolate in my peanut butter.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's the same thing. Call it all board games. It's like, oh, hey, you got a lot of movies. No, I have a lot of films. It's like.
Pardon me while I adjust my nose upwards.
Yeah. It's like just put them under one title so it's easier to to figure them out.
Cool. Well, when you get your hands on some of these or whatever, that's definitely a digress.
Yeah. We'll try it out.
Okay.
So
have you? Did you? I know you played a little bit of Kerbal.
I played like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just
and it was probably all rollies, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. I had to fire up my rollie again. That is so much fun.
No, it's so funny. I mean, you just love rollies.
Yeah, I just found something I really like doing. So I'm going to be doing that for a little bit. But
I know that the game developers, if they hear this, they've got to be sitting there scratching their heads going,
like, we made a space game. What is he doing?
Well, people play games in their own ways.
Yeah.
So you did 30 minutes.
Pretty much nothing. It's negligible. I fulfilled a few little tiny contracts, but it's kind of like how I said before. Mm-hmm. Like I had to do the Sepratron, so I just put a lander can on the launch pad and then put the Sepratron on it pointing downward and just hit ignite and launched it downward, and it counted as a contract. And
it worked.
A lot of people were telling me like ways to fulfill contracts. Yeah. And a lot of them are like, I just don't really think that's what they had in mind when they made that contract. But they're oh no, you could totally do this. Yeah. It's like they'll just put the rockets on upside down and they don't do anything, but you get the contract.
I was gonna. This was a question I was actually gonna toss out to the listenership because I got to wondering about it myself. There's little tweaks and glitches and things within the game that you can use to your advantage.
Yeah, you can like exploit them.
Yeah, that don't exist in the real world. Yeah. And I was curious from the listeners if there's an exploit in the game that you use. And I'll give you an example of the one that I always use. Whenever I am, like, for example, if I'm going to do a maneuver node, you know how it puts the blue crosshair on your nav ball? When I start to swing my craft around to get it aligned, as soon as the center point on the nav ball gets to where I need it, instead of trying to stop the craft's rotation, what I do is I reach over and I hit the time accelerate, which immediately freezes the ship in place. It kills all the rotation. And I just briefly time accelerate and then I time decelerate back to normal time.
Wow.
And I don't have to waste any time or RCS fuel or anything. But that's an exploit in the game that, you know, would not work in real life, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are there exploits in the game that you use comparable or along the same lines as the time acceleration that kills your rotation exploit?
I just imagine all the Kerbal corporations that like issued the contract, like, hey, we need you to test this part, and like, oh yeah, it works really fine when you put it on upside down and don't do anything with it. You're like,
that's
I don't
not
think
what we had in mind.
Yeah, that's not testing data. It's like, oh well, pay up.
Yeah,
you know?
hey, you didn't specify.
Yeah, that's like whenever, you know, somebody comes up and like, hey, can I ask you a question? Yeah, and then you just walk off.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, it's like
just did.
the short story, The Monkey's Paw, right? You know, where
yeah.
you know, people are making wishes, and it was like, okay, we're going to give you exactly what you asked for. I want my dead son back. Oh, and alive.
Yeah.
Didn't say alive.
Yeah, I'm always afraid that, like, anytime I'm like, man, you know, I could watch this movie forever. Then the Twilight Zone music will play, and then all of a sudden I am watching that movie forever, you know? Okay, so what's your progress report?
My progress in the game for this week. First of all, I told you that we got a challenge from Shay about how many planets can you visit in one trip.
Oh, so this is try number 2.
This was try number 2. This time I was actually successful because I didn't waste the whole week trying to build something in orbit. And
how'd it go?
I went to the Mun, landed, planted a flag, went to Minmus, landed, planted a flag. I had just enough fuel to get back to Kerbin, and I landed. Remember, one of the requirements was you had to land at or near the space center.
Yeah.
I landed, and I actually took a screenshot. There's a little dot in the center of the screen, okay, in this big open green meadow. Yeah. And way, way, way off in the distance, you can just barely see the space center. The little dot was my command pod. So, I mean, I could see it from where I landed. Now, I mean, I wasn't close, you know, depending on how you define close.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on the same continent, so that was close enough, I guess.
That's close in my book.
And then the next thing I did was I actually did build a craft and went to Duna and landed on that. And that's where I am right now, is I've got a guy standing on Duna.
Oh, cool.
And it's the new design where the crew compartment is on the bottom. So they literally, when I land, they just step out. And so I'm not going to have any issues with ladders.
And thanks to my Rolly research,
yeah,
if it's it's occupied, it has a higher durability.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my progress report.
Duna doesn't have a moon, does it?
Yes, Ike.
Ike. Oh, okay. Have you been to Ike?
I've been to Ike. In previous games, I've been to Ike. I haven't been in this latest iteration.
Couldn't remember whether or not you'd been.
Yeah. I've been to Eve and its moon, and I've been to Duna and its moon, and Moho is the planet that's closest to the sun. And I have, if I remember correctly, because it's been several months, but if I remember correctly, I got to Moho, and I think I burned up in the atmosphere or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, my progress up to this point is Eve and Duna, and beyond that, I haven't really gone.
Yeah.
So
are you going to try for the Shay challenge again?
Well, actually, Shay gave us another challenge, and we're going to talk about that later in the program.
There you go.
So and as always, we're going to pass that on to the listeners too.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's our progress report. We're going to take a break at this point, and we're going to bring you the very first Modders Minute And this comes to us from DK from the Twitch channel Declarations, and he's going to tell us all about the enhanced nav ball.
With the first couple episodes of Modders Minute, I thought I would cover what I consider to be mods with features that should absolutely be included in the base game. The first of these mods is called Enhanced Nav Ball. Every beginning Kerbal Space Program player has gone through the experience of setting their maneuver node and then spinning their ship around like an idiot in a desperate attempt to find that little blue maneuver vector. The Enhanced Nav Ball mod helps alleviate this issue by giving us a ghosted maneuver vector in the direction that the vector actually is. For example, if the maneuver vector is perfectly 90 degrees to your right, you'll see a faded blue maneuver vector on the right side of your nav ball, indicating which direction you need to turn. In addition to giving you ghosted prograde and retrograde vector indicators, this mod also displays your radial, anti-radial, normal, and anti-normal vectors right on your nav ball. And NOS, those are the directions that aren't yellow when you're making your maneuver node. With the included toolbar mod integration, you can also access sliders to move your nav ball around on the bottom of the screen, as well as change the scaling to make it as big or as little as you might prefer. It should also be noted that the Enhanced Nav Ball mod doesn't really change the experience of the vanilla game, it simply augments it. To any vanilla player, I have to say that this mod will only add to your stock game experience.
All right, thank you. Again, that's DK from the Twitch channel Declarations and our very first Modders Minute.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I've said this before. I love the Kerbal community. We said that we needed help covering mods.
Yeah.
And it was like, boom, the floodgates opened.
Yeah, so we featured his story. If anyone else has a Modders Minute, we'd be happy to feature you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's move on to the crew report. And of course, that's your letters. And Nas has the first letter.
From Jared. Hey, KPC team. First time moderate time listener.
I had to think about that. KPC.
Oh, yeah.
Kerbal Podcast.
Yeah. It took me a second. I was like, oh, yeah, that's us.
Of course, I'm the same guy. It took me forever to figure out that HQ meant headquarters. I was like, well, what's the Q for?
First-time writer, moderate-time listener, started at episode 10. I'm an avid player at 756 hours, with the bulk of which has been from 0.24. Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that is a lot. 0.24 has been like a month?
Yeah. And how many hours?
756.
Oh, my God.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go, Jared.
Jared.
I started playing a year ago and became addicted to it.
Gee, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. I just got out of the Army to start college, and for a while I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I've always been interested in space and robotics from a very early age, and this game connected up the dots for me. While shooters like Modern Warfare and Battlefield may be fun, I didn't feel like it made me a better soldier. It made him, could make you better at trash talk.
Yeah. That's true. You can trash talk on the battlefield.
Yeah. KSP, on the other hand, has definitely ignited a passion, gave me direction for a career, and showed me that there is a point to math and physics.
That is something that's very unique to Kerbal.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody in any other game say, this game encouraged me to whatever.
To learn this.
Yeah, Kerbal seems to be encouraging people to get into the aerospace industry.
Yeah.
I can't think of another game that does that. It's like Minecraft doesn't make people want to get into construction.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of people. I think the ratio of people that became more interested in space and aerospace that play Kerbal is a lot higher than the number of people who have played any other game and got into that industry because of that. I don't think very many people played any of the war games and been as motivated to become,
like a soldier or a general or something.
Go into the military.
Right.
I mean, some do, and if whatever inspires you, that's good. It's just Kerbal has a very high rate of inspiration with people that we've heard.
Well, it's kind of replaced, back in the 60s, the space race encouraged a lot of people to get into that field.
Yeah.
And now, that's gone away, and now you've got this, which is encouraging people. Anyway, I just think that's something that's very unique about Kerbal, I think.
And Jared says, I made a decision to study electrical engineering and hope to work for NASA when I graduate.
All right. Go, Jared.
Yeah. As for episode 14, I second the writer about using the podcast for a Modders Minute.
Yeah. We're ahead of you, Jared.
Yeah, we got you taken care of. I use mods so extensively that the load time gives me enough time to mission plan my next fail. I love ScanSat, and it adds a whole new set of personal objectives like designing my own Kerbal satellite network. Keep up the great outreach to our community. If you want another interesting mod suggestion, look at Final Frontier. It adds a ton of ribbons to achieve for different accomplishments. As if you don't feel the heavy sense of remorse when writing condolence letters to the families of fallen Kerbalnauts, now you have the added guilt of more personality and backstory. And he signs off with, remember to keep your tank topped off.
All right. Hey, how many sign-offs do we have now for?
We'll eventually just have a podcast that is nothing but a sign
off. And we're like, hi, everybody. Okay, well, we're going to sign off for the next hour. So that's so cool.
I like how everyone is making their own, though. I think that's great.
They're coming up with, yeah. The other thing that I like is I love that we're already doing the Modders Minute. And so when someone writes in and goes, I definitely would like to hear the Modders Minute, it's like, God.
Yeah, and you got it.
Got it. We got you covered.
Yeah.
You know, what would be really, it's like if we hadn't done it, it's like every letter like that, we'd be like, we're getting to it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Come on. Give us a break, man. Well, let's move on. Next letter. This is from Keen Roberts. Hey, guys. I just wanted to ask if you know anyone who plans out their flights beforehand by calculating the given delta V and getting everything down before they head off for the launch pad or runway. I tried this one time, but I wasn't able to completely figure it out and haven't been able to successfully produce a correct delta V for my craft. I know we've gotten some letters from people who talk about the amount of delta V needed.
Yeah,
so I know
there's
some people are doing
formula
it
and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I wish there was a way to, like, there was a planning element in the game where you could, like, separately from the star field itself, like, have a map that you could project forward and kind of plan your planetary, your gravity assists and things like that. Continuing with the letter from Keen Roberts. One more question. When you launch your rockets, what does your ascent trajectory look like? I feel like I'm burning a lot of fuel on the launch just because of my chosen trajectory. Personally, when I launch, I head straight up, decreasing the maximum time through the atmosphere, and when I clear it around 70,000 meters, I turn my craft in the direction of my momentum to create a circular orbit around Kerbin at 70,000 meters. Any tips for increasing my efficiency for my travels to the Mun and other planets? I do use the prograde burns of my periapsis to conserve fuel and use that as a planetary slingshot. My ascent trajectory is very similar to his.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, what I do is I go straight up, and when the nav ball changes from surface to orbit, that's when I pitch over to 90 degrees, and that's where I start making my circular orbit.
Yeah.
Now, I have done right off the pad, I'll lean over a few degrees, and I will slowly increase my arc as I go up.
Okay.
That's a lot trickier, because you can actually get into a situation where you've got a good head start on creating your circular orbit, but you've lost a lot of your momentum, and what happens is that you don't get high enough, and when you lose your big engines, you're still too low in the atmosphere, and then you've got your upper stage smaller engines, and they're not enough to keep you boosted into a higher orbit. So I mean, that's the way I do it. How do you do it?
I go straight up. And then whenever I reach whatever height I think is as high as I want to go,
right?
Like just through the M view, I pitch it to 90 degrees and I start accelerating. As far as like sometimes I'll go with the direction that if I had any sort of lean or tilt in the arc, to where we go. I'll just go whatever direction I want it to go, and you have to fight off a little bit of resistance, but usually it's not too far off to get whatever you want.
Do you remember when we sat in on the Dahoud channel, or as I call him, the Dude?
The Dude.
Do you remember he did a gravity assist launch where he came off the pad and he let the momentum actually...
Yeah, it's where it arced it some.
Yeah.
I've had that whenever I've launched, and...
Those are tricky.
Yeah, if it just does it by itself, I just let it happen.
Right.
But otherwise, I try to keep it straight up.
I guess I should remind everybody, we're still learning.
Yeah.
That should be obvious by now.
I didn't know there were many other ways to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I have messed around with doing different ascent trajectories.
yeah.
And like I said, I mean, sometimes it works beautifully. And then sometimes, I find myself hanging at about 50,000 kilometer
Yeah.
50,000 meters. And all of a sudden I'm into my upper stage, smaller engines. And now I'm plummeting. Going, okay, revert to launch.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess this is how it happens.
Yeah. That was another thing I was going to ask about, by the way. I have been, I'm still having that glitch where when I revert to launch or revert to save or whatever, a lot of times when I go back, my right click starts getting twitchy.
Oh, still?
Yeah. Yeah, I start having that. And I've also run into, there's another glitch I've run into also when I'm rendezvousing two craft. You can use the brackets to switch between the two craft. Sometimes I'll use the bracket and switch to the other craft, and it immediately just explodes into 1,000 pieces. It's like, okay, what did I do?
Did you, whenever you're mapping keys, did you put self-destruct on the bracket too?
Apparently.
Yeah. Common mistake, a lot of people do it.
Gee, my mistake. I didn't realize that there was one.
Yeah.
But I will ask the listeners again, are you having those kind of glitches, problems with your right-click menu when you revert to save or revert to launch? Or are you having problems with switching between craft and all of a sudden one of them just inexplicably explodes?
Yeah.
Because I've had that's been happening.
If you're having that problem, whenever you write in, also tell us what system you're running it on.
Yeah.
Because I think that...
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah. I don't know. There may be a chance that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. You have the next letter since I had the last one.
This is from Deshaded. Hey guys, love the podcast.
Oh,
Aw,
thank you.
We love you too. I heard Nas say...
We really love you.
I heard Nas say a couple times he's concerned about science contracts and having the experiments generate no science points. They don't have to. You can still keep doing the experiment over and over with 0 science points. It will still count for the contract. One thing you can do is put up a small satellite with a probe body, battery, solar panel, antenna, and a thermometer. When you get the contract for science around that body, just run the experiment on the thermometer and transmit. Easy money. Hope that helps. By the way, love the name Nos. I'm a huge fan of Alien. Well, you can thank my mother for that one.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question. Didn't you tell me that you have not seen Alien?
No, I have seen Alien.
You have seen it?
Yeah, I haven't seen...
Aliens?
No, I've seen Aliens, and I've seen Aliens 3. I think it was Alien Resurrection.
Oh, okay.
Is one I don't think I've seen that one.
And
I own it. I just
You
haven't
own
watched-
it?
Yeah, I bought the Alien quadrology or whatever.
Right,
I
right.
just haven't watched it yet.
you need to look and see who wrote the screenplay
Yeah.
for that movie.
Oh no.
Joss Whedon.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the contracts thing, that is good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That you can still just do the thing. Part of my beef with it is
Yeah.
you can do that and it still works, and I'm glad. And thank you to Shaded for writing that in.
Right.
That is actually something I didn't know, and that is useful. It still just kind of gets me that I have done that science from around there.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have said collect science with this item,
Right.
but if I've collected all the science from the orbit around Minmus with the thermometer or whatever,
Right.
I think if the contract opens up, it should just kind of auto resolve,
Right.
because you've done it. You
Right.
know? But knowing that you can, even though you've already done it, you could just do it again with the thermometer is good, and the idea about the satellites is a good idea too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really like that. Thank you, Shaded.
Well, you want to hear something funny? The next letter comes from Cajun Nerd.
Cajun Nerd.
Yes, and Cajun Nerd
It's a little spicy.
says the same thing in his first couple paragraphs. He talks about how even though you've exhausted the science, it still fulfills the contract.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
so
yeah.
you got two people telling you that. So I'm going to skip Cajun Nerd. I'm going to skip the first two contracts since that's already been
Yeah.
covered.
No, you still have to do them, even though it doesn't yield any. It yields 0 science.
Yeah, and he says, "Greetings, fellow Kerbalnauts." And then first couple of contracts, he basically says, "Hey, Nos, guess what?"
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Cajun Nerd.
Thanks, Cajun Nerd.
I did read it.
Paragraph number 3 begins, on a similar note to contracts, when a parts contract comes up to test engines, while they usually need to be activated through staging, they don't have to actually be connected to any fuel source or even need to be fired. To give an example, I recently got a contract to test the Poodle engine. At that point, I didn't even have the large fuel tanks to go with it. So what I did was, I'm sorry. I'm going to read exactly what he wrote. So what I did was mount the Poodle.
Well,
Well, I guess that's the same thing as screw the pooch, right?
yeah, there you go.
I mounted the Poodle inverted to the top of my command module, strapped a few of the regular-sized fuel tanks to the bottom of my capsule with one of the medium-sized engines for thrust. Once I reached the speed and altitude needed for the contract, I fired the Poodle engine through staging. But when I made the craft, I right-clicked on it and set the thruster limiter to 0. So it didn't provide any thrust at all. This satisfies the contract and didn't require anything more than just getting the engine to the right spot and speed and activating it. Again, that is the letter of the contract.
Yeah.
Not the spirit. One thing, since I'm on a roll, but you know what? That's one of those exploits that I was talking about. Those are the kind of things I want to hear about, that, little exploits like that you can do in the game. Like, killing your rotation with the time acceleration. One more thing, since I'm on a roll and will possibly be getting my first ever email to a podcast being read on a show. Woohoo!
Hey!
He literally wrote woohoo. When you EVA and use your jetpack, then re-enter your command module to refuel, it doesn't take from the module's RCS reserve to refuel the jetpack.
Oh, yeah, the infinite jetpack.
Yeah, we talked about this. So, just as Kerbals have infinite air in their suits, they also have infinite jetpack fuel in their command modules. How's that for science?
So, you know what? We're going to extend the whole, plant theory. And that they, it's a plant, and they don't need oxygen, but they constantly secrete methane gas, and it compresses into fuel.
I still say, if they're plants, why do they have teeth?
Their suits full of farts. Don't take this away from me. This is amazing. They breathe farts.
Nos wants his flatulence humor intact. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. The show is fun to listen to. You don't seem to take yourselves too seriously like some other podcasts I listen to. Aw. And you have a great mix of game and non-game topics that keep me entertained the whole time. Happy Kerbaling.
Well, you're going to like the progress report.
Hey, and I thought we were just entertaining ourselves, but
yeah.
What do you know? Well, that was, let's see, that came to us from Cajun Nerd. So what's our next letter?
From Peekaboo.
Peekaboo!
Dear Biff and Nos, I've just recently discovered your podcast, and I'm currently only catching up on your older episodes, but I'm enjoying every minute of it.
You should mention that Peekaboo is spelled like Pikachu, except it's got boo on the end instead of chew. Yeah.
I have recently heard episode number 5, when you address a career report sent in by Run Phil Run, and Biff mentions the movie Run Lola Run. Suddenly, I had an epiphany. Run Lola Run is the quintessential Kerbal movie. Lola, probably Kerman, gets her mission from Manny, definitely a Kerman, and immediately launches from the launch staircase. She starts running the mission, literally, and every time things end up bad, she immediately reverts back to the launch staircase and tries again. And the lesson to Nos is, you should always have hope, but even if you end up riddled with bullet holes, you'll always have revert. But enough with that.
The other message to Nos is you need to watch that movie.
Yeah. But enough with the digressing. I need your help. Help! I took the Rescue Archibald Kerman contract, and I read in the forums that you can send an unmanned capsule with a probe attached to the rescue. So I launched my capsule, and after much vooing around, I finally rendezvoused with Archibald, parking my capsule at a mere 1.3 meters without RCS from him. But I can't take control over him to fly him into the capsule. Even switching to the tracking station doesn't give me the option to fly him. What can I do? Many thanks.
I have a response to this.
Okay.
Did I write it on there?
No. Actually, I have my response. I can't help you because mine is Rescue Dude Goss Kerman.
So it's totally different.
Yeah, I don't know how to rescue Archibald. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not working on that one. So.
No, and the answer to this, and I wanted to talk about this on the podcast because I know somebody else is going to run into this same problem. When you get within a certain distance of your stranded Kerbal knot, the way to take control of them is the bracket keys. Remember how I told you that in Rendezvous you can use the bracket keys to switch between craft?
But want to blow them up?
With the way my glitches have been happening, yes. He would be a big suit full of Kerbal Jello.
Okay, so you need the F5 and then start hitting the bracket keys and hoping
F5 before you bracket. Now, after I passed that on to him and said that you need to use the bracket keys, he wrote me back and said, thank you, that worked. He said, pass along to the listeners. The first time I tried it, it didn't work. He says, so you may have to try it.
Yeah.
There's a uncertainty fact. There's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle applies here. So continue. Or was that the end?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, he did also say that his name was from Babylon 5, so he has a sci-fi name too.
Sweet. Yeah, I see. I thought it was from Pokemon.
Oh yeah. Every time I get a name, I just want to pronounce it in the weirdest way. It's like, oh, thank you, Peekaboo.
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 Picard. Okay. From Anykey. And actually, we have Anykey sent in 3 different topics. Each one has its own headline.
Okay, there we go.
Headline number 1, Roly-Poly. Gee, I wonder what this is about. A popular spot to drive your roly-poly is up on the Mun. It has low gravity and good ramps and not that hard to get to. Honest, it's not that hard compared to some of the other places. People typically add girders, beams, and lots of SAS controls in order to get larger roly-polies, and they add to the explosion for when it inevitably crashes. Yeah, the more stuff you put in it, the more there is to blow up.
Yeah.
Okay, headline number 2, Kerbals hate water. Some people say that one of the reasons why Kerbals try to get off the planet so much is their fear of water. Signs, anyone?
Yeah.
Most Kerbal technology either stops working properly or breaks apart upon touching water. I've noticed that. You bring a craft down, and it's like everything explodes except for the pod itself.
Oh yeah.
Like if you bring a whole craft down with parachutes, when it hits the water, everything just vanishes except for the pod.
Unless they're all attached to a rolly, and then they're all gone.
They're rolling on the ocean floor.
They don't just sit on the surface. It all just goes away.
Yeah. Let's see. Either stops working properly or breaks apart upon touching water. I heard you were interested in having your Kerbals make boats. He's talking to you, Nas.
Oh, okay.
And the only way that Kerbals can currently make boats so far has been with radial intakes. The intakes seem to have been designed to stick to air. So even when underwater, they are sticking to air, allowing you to float.
Oh, so it's like they're on top of the water, but they're really on a thin layer of air above the water.
Hey, I didn't write this, so I don't know. Okay. I assume that's what it sounds like he's saying.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like in Minecraft. If you want to build something underwater, ladders create a square of air.
Uh-huh.
And so to build something underwater, you line a wall with ladders, which creates an air pocket, and then you build away from that.
Huh.
So yeah, I guess it's the same kind of.
I would build up like a giant. Well, I had whatever my castle was, and I'd build a giant ring in the sky. Yeah. And I would destroy anything that led up to it.
Yeah.
But I would.
And it would all just float up there.
Yeah, but I would pour water on it, so there's this veil of water that would be around my entire. So I could see this giant blue cube from anywhere I was going. Yeah,
I built an underwater house in one game that I played of Minecraft.
Oh yeah.
And the thing that just drove me nuts was every time. It's like I'd be hanging out in my apartment, right? And all these octopus and squid and stuff would all be trying to come in the door. And I was like, get out of here.
Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What's going on? Hey, can I come in?
Yeah.
Hey. Okay. And headline number 3 from Anykey is Redneck Rockets. Let's say your Kerbals have run out of funds because of a global recession or because your previous administrator was too busy blowing up everything. Try the Budget Rocket Parts mod. Subtitle, Bust out the duct tape, we're going to space.
Did you check that out?
No, I haven't.
There's a video of it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
like all the parts are reskinned, and so it's like cardboard boxes or the boosters are like barbecue grills and stuff, and it's like seriously struts or duct tape. It's hilarious. I was cracking up laughing.
If you use the budget rocket parts mod, you might be a redneck. Yeah, he says try that mod for the redneck in all of us.
Oh.
Thank you, Anykey.
From MittenPo85. Hi guys, I'm back again, and thanks for the great work. Maybe I hope I pronounced his name the same way last time, so I'm consistent. I've been playing this game for 336 hours now, but still only landed on Mun and Duna. I've sent some probes to other planets, though only for the science points. Today I wanted to share my attempt of the Rolly on the Mun. I also tried to do the Interstellar mission.
You have created a sensation.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon. But ended up only experimenting with PB Ion electric propulsion system, the one that uses xenon gas. I've also made a short movie about the project. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop laughing. That was hilarious.
Yes.
I didn't think to put roller skates on it.
I know.
Like it's like right there.
This is a YouTube video that he made, and we're gonna post a link to this. You have got to watch this because this thing is hilarious.
Yeah, it's got like a pretty awesome little soundtrack too.
And the music is hilarious.
It has like disco lights too. It was amazing.
It's 3 minutes long. You will not stop laughing for 3 minutes.
So go to YouTube and search for Mun Rolly, or go to kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com, and we're going to put a link up whenever we post this.
Definitely. This whole Rolly craze that you've created, if there's like a hit squad that's trying to find you, it's from Squad. Yeah. The developers at Squad.
They're like, stop doing that.
They've had it with the Rollies. Yeah. So they've sent a hit squad out to get Nos.
Yeah, I saw also gave us a screenshot, and that was an awesome looking Rolly.
Yeah.
Like, he made it, like I did the two giant wheel system. Mm-hmm. He made a system, like it's like a sanctioned thing. And he made like one giant wheel covered in roller skates. Yeah. And you saw him putting that thing up, and he rendezvous with it.
Yeah.
And it was...
Well, I don't know if you had the same feeling or reaction that I did when I was laughing my head off. Yeah. But in the back of my mind also, I was kind of up to that point. I was feeling like, I'm a pretty good Kerbal player. And then I watched that and I was like going, oh my God, I am such an amateur.
Yeah. I mean, can you launch something weird?
And the way he was maneuvering it and all the things it was doing. And I was going, I couldn't do that if I tried. Yeah, so
I didn't think of it because using the landing gear as the outside of it, I mean, you get wheels, and you also those things are made to absorb a lot more impact than the command pod is. So
I have to give him a lot of credit for that. That was great.
I almost called it out because when I first saw it, I was like, I don't see enough command pods, and then I saw the command pods that were behind all the other stuff. I was like, okay, we're good.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna put a link to it. You've got to watch.
That's an awesome roll.
Yeah, it is so funny. Okay, next letter. Is this our last letter?
That's our last letter.
Okay, this one, my guess at the pronunciation is Kipio0. Greetings, Biff and Nos. I'm a player of questionable skill. The best I've ever done is to get to and from the Mun and Minmus, that planet of false snacks. Remember I told you it looks like sherbet or something in space? Yeah. And I have a lot of trouble trying to rescue Kerbals in orbit around Kerbin.
He's a little bit ahead of me, I'd say. Yeah. Because I haven't even tried for Minmus yet. And
so does that make you a player of even more questionable skill?
It makes me a player of questionable ethics. Because of half the stuff I've been doing.
You're a woman of questionable morals.
Yeah.
Okay. Like Biff, I was wary of the contract system. However, I think I may have to change my tune after I performed what is most likely the wildest contract I ever had. Oh, this is a story. I love the stories. The fine folks at Kerbodyne and Rockomax wanted me to test a Poodle engine, which is better than mounting it, and an S1 SRB KD 25K in orbit at around 88K M, or kilometers. I actually got through that. Thus began the development and launch of the Beefstick Sombrero 1, thus named because its final stage consisted of one MK capsule sandwiched between the KD-25K and the Rockomax Poodle, making it look like a long pointed spear with an upside down poodle acting like a sombrero. Oh, the images I'm getting.
Yeah.
Through some trial and error, I managed to get it up to the correct orbit, and Bill looked so excited. Then I told him to point it retrograde and hit the next stage, hoping that the spacecraft would fall back to Kerbin. What I didn't consider was how powerful a lone KB-25 is. Bill gasped in horror as he saw the orbital velocity dash past 0 and just as suddenly rise back up. There was so much delta V in that last stage that instead of falling back to Kerbin, it completely switched orbital direction. Panicked, I did the only thing I thought I could do. I pointed the vessel straight at Kerbin, hoping to deorbit the craft. It was like a deranged rodeo with barely enough torque and electric charge to pull off the maneuver. I lucked out. We barely nicked the atmosphere, not enough to completely deorbit Bill, but enough to start slowing us down. After roughly 5 passes through the thinnest part of the atmosphere, Bill finally lost enough speed. I looked at him and said, "Buffalo Bill, you're going home." I doubt I would have had such a wild experience outside of any other mode. But I have to say, it was an amazing adventure. That
Nice.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kippio0.
I really like the moments where like, I'm just going to try this.
Yeah.
And then it ends up working
Yeah.
out. You're like, I knew it.
Yeah, I knew it. I wasn't worried.
Yeah.
I was with you all along. Okay, well, that is our crew report, and we will move on. And we're joined once again by Dark Mushroom, and it's this week's Dark Matter.
Our question today comes from an anonymous Kerbaler, all of whom which shall be henceforth referred to as Jeb or Jebadina, who writes in short, "When I launch a rocket, what is the most efficient path to take and speed to fly at?" Jeb also relates that he, apparently being dissatisfied with KSP's severe lack of difficulty, is employing the Ferrum Aerospace Research and Procedural Fairings mods. The key to a perfect Ferrum-compatible ascent, though it works quite well on stock, is graduality. The lower your thrust-to-weight ratio, the higher you are going to want to be when you begin your gravity turn. In contrast with the stock game, throttling down in the atmosphere is generally discouraged. Instead, if you're getting vertical land speeds of greater than 100 meters per second, begin easing the velocity horizontal by slowly tipping your craft in the direction you want to go. Now that you've tipped your rocket, notice your surface prograde marker is resting where you want to go. Continue to push this marker horizontal by lining up your nav ball with the edge of the marker that corresponds to your desired direction of travel. This way, you avoid sudden movements and hopefully reach a desired pre-orbital vector of 45 degrees at 1 kilometer per second or higher in a reasonable amount of time. Finally, and again in contrast with a stock gravity turn, we are not going to gently coast to the apoapsis to stabilize our orbit. At around 60 kilometers, keeping your time to apoap around 1 minute and distance higher than 70 kilometers, continue to effort your now orbital prograde horizontal. Aim on the polar side of your prograde if you need to buy some time or height, and aim below or at the equatorial side if you have time and height to spare. Now that you've completed your courageous white-knuckle journey around Kerbin, be sure to send Biff and Nos a crew report detailing your triumph. For the rest of you Kerbalers, send your questions to DarkMushroom87 on Twitter or by mailing kerbalpodcast@gmail.com with the subject line Dark Matter. And remember, in the words of Robert Heinlein, if you can get your ship into orbit, you're halfway to anywhere.
And that was Dark Mushroom's Dark Matter. Thanks, Dark Mushroom.
Thanks, Dark Mushroom. Good stuff. Let's move on to the mission briefing now. This is, of course, news, and I want to start with the first one because this is well-deserved praise. PC Gamer Magazine, in their latest issue, has done the top 100 PC games of all time.
Oh.
Number 90 on the list, Kerbal Space Program.
Oh, nice.
I know, isn't that cool?
It hasn't been out that long, and it's already on all time.
Yeah, all time. They 3 different editors weighed in on the game. I want to read their comments. The first one is from Phil, and he says, "The simple satisfaction of constructing a rocket ship and the helpless horror of watching it crash and burn. Kerbal Space Program's appeal lies in both those things. It's a test of engineering and a lesson in abject failure, all set against the majesty of space." Wes says, "For the first 3 hours of my Kerbal aerospace career, I strapped together as many rockets as I could and laughed as they exploded mid-takeoff. The next 3 hours I spent learning the ropes of ship design and experimenting with aerodynamics. And then I actually tried to achieve a stable orbit. And then I shot for the Mun. And suddenly, oops, I had played 30 hours of Kerbal Space Program. At least I was a little smarter. And the last one, Ian says, so much of gaming is serious and gritty, but KSP is built with almost childlike awe. So congratulations to Kerbal Space Program and all the folks who work on the game. Top 100 PC games of all time, and Kerbal is 90.
And it's not even done yet.
Yeah, and it hasn't been out that long either, so that is an achievement. So congratulations, guys. What's our next story?
Redneck Einstein has posted a KSP guide to career mode on his YouTube channel. Search for Redneck Einstein Contracts and Budgets.
Redneck Einstein. E equals MC squared. Yeah, and we will...
MC Square Dance.
MC Square Dance. Hey, that's good. I like that. We will post a link to that as well. We'll have 2 YouTube links. We'll have the Rolly YouTube video, which you've got to watch.
Yeah.
And then Redneck Einstein and his career mode guide.
Yeah.
So I have the next story.
Yes.
Okay. This one I have to talk about. Okay.
Okay.
This is from the AV Club, which is part of The Onion.
All right.
And the headline is, Disney might be releasing the unaltered Star Wars trilogy on Blu-ray, but probably isn't. Yeah, we've had that false hope dangled out in front of us many, many times, haven't we?
Yeah.
The article reads, against the wishes of the mysterious old man who originally brought it into the world, the original unaltered Star Wars trilogy might actually be coming to Blu-ray. It's not necessarily the way the movies were meant to be seen. Lucas claims the remastered versions are how he always intended them. Nonsense. Now, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Nonsense. There is a book. If you can find it, I highly recommend it. It's called The Secret History of Star Wars. This author had access to all of George Lucas's early drafts and all of his notes. Star Wars started out as a remake, a space remake of Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was never intended to be that. That's just kind of where he started.
Yeah.
And he slowly developed the story that we came to know. The different characters went through different changes. It was never intended to be what he ultimately came up with. That was one of the things that the book shows is George Lucas has a habit of going back and revising his own history. He will say something and then years later say something completely different and then act like he never said the first thing. So the special editions were never what he intended. Now, it's what he intended at the end.
Yeah.
But it's not what he intended at the beginning, which is what he claims. It is still the way that most people would prefer to see them, the unaltered versions. We're talking hand shooting first.
Over my dead body.
No elaborate Sice Noodles dance number.
Was that the brown Muppet guy?
Yeah, no, I think it's the blue guy with the big... You remember in Return of the Jedi, you know, it's like George Lucas looked at that film and said, you know, there's just not enough critters, damn it.
Yeah, but he had
so he added more.
He like sang a song or whatever?
Yeah. I don't speak Snoodleese or whatever. No Hayden Christensen ghost, which bugs me to no end.
Yeah, it's like when you die, you come back as whatever force projection you want, you know?
What bothers me about that is not what you said. What bothers me is what they should have when they changed Hayden. They should have changed also Luke's reaction, because I'm sure when he looked at, okay, there's Yoda, I know who he is. There's Ben Kenobi, I know who he is. Who's that young guy?
Yeah.
I have no idea who that is, because the guy that I just saw was an old man.
Yeah.
With like a crack in his head.
Yeah.
And in the unaltered version, eyebrows, even though he supposedly burned up.
Mm-hmm.
Luke, I mean, who is this teenager?
Yeah.
You know, he's going, well, I guess Dad didn't make it. So yeah, the Hayden Christensen ghost makes no sense to me. And no beak on the Sarlacc. Presumably, it will also restore things that were cut from later editions of the movies, like the scene where a rebel pilot talks to Luke about his father, Boba Fett's original voice, and all of the times Luke and Leia grossly make out before discovering that they're related. Although, I will say one of the things that I laugh about in Return of the Jedi, when he says, the other is your identical twin sister, and he goes, Leia's my sister. And Kenobi goes, your instinct serves you well. I'm going, she's the only woman in the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
What instinct? It's not like you had a whole lot of choice.
My force power of deduction tells me.
Let's see. It's that woman or, well, that's the only one.
Yeah.
So, okay. This comes from comicbook.com, which has it on good authority from, quote, 2 independent, reliable sources that Disney plans to release the new old trilogy at some point before Episode 7 is in theaters, which is supposed to be summer next year. But, and this is a but so large it could easily be confused for a moon.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
There are some huge red flags on this story. For one, the report comes from a site called comicbook.com.
Yeah.
And while it might have some prime URL real estate with a name like that, it's not exactly the most well-known source. And this is an even bigger issue, Disney doesn't own the distribution rights to the original trilogy. That means it can't release them without working out some kind of deal with Fox, which still controls all the other Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. A deal like that certainly isn't impossible, but it's very unlikely. Fox doesn't have very much to gain from re-releasing the old Star Wars movies, especially since it would just help promote Disney's sequel. I disagree.
You're going to make money off of that.
There's money in them there heels.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, seriously, have you ever watched the documentary The People versus George Lucas?
No, I've seen it. I think it's still on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. You've got to watch it. It's great. But there's a guy says that if they released an 80-disc Blu-ray version of the Star Wars trilogy, and somewhere in those 80 discs, 3 of them were the original unaltered movies. And even if they charged $500 for the whole 80 disc set, he would still buy it just to get those 3 discs.
Yeah.
So Fox has, if they can do it, if George Lucas didn't put some kind of poison pill in the contract or whatever, if they can do it, there's money.
Yeah,
there's lots of money to be made.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I have said this a million times. I'll say it again. George Lucas could short circuit every bit of the hate that he gets by simply releasing the unaltered versions. I don't care how many special editions he comes out with. The super special, extra heavy duty, super strength edition.
Yeah.
However many editions he releases, make sure the originals are always available. As long as you do that, people are going to be fine. And it's not like it's an unheard of idea. One of his best friends is Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg, when he went and remastered and did the super special E.T., he released it in a 3-disc set.
Yeah.
That was the original unaltered version, another version where they had re-recorded the music, and then another version where he had gone in and changed some things. All 3 versions are available. Ridley Scott, all 5 versions of Blade Runner are available on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
This is not an unheard of concept. Put out all the versions. We're nerds. We'll buy it.
Yeah.
Okay?
You could sell them in all separate boxes, and not every box would be
We'll
bought.
buy it. Seriously, we will buy this stuff.
Just make collectible covers. You're done.
Put it out there, and people will, they will hoist you on their shoulders and carry you down Main Street and say, George Lucas is the greatest guy that ever lived.
Yeah.
If he releases the unaltered trilogy. I'm getting all worked up, aren't I?
Yeah.
Let's see, where was I? As always, we're going to remain cautiously optimistic about this, but it would be wise to take this rumor with a significant portion of salt. And I am going to hope that this is true, because I want the unaltered Star Wars trilogy, because they are much better. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah. Another Shay challenge.
Yay!
Hey, Shay's back with a new challenge. My new challenge for you is to colonize the planet Kerbin. Plants, they may be, but they do need living quarters.
If they're plants, why do they have teeth? I'm sorry.
I propose that you start a new campaign and land houses around the planet's surface. They don't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to do a mansion. Just a command pod with landing legs or a small metal box. Something simple and small. You can only have 8 total Kerbals on the planet. Once you need them, simply have them get out of the house and recover them. These 8 Kerbals are the only ones you will be able to use for the campaign. And remember, no reverts. Breathe deep, fly high.
What is this get out of the house he speaks of?
Yeah.
I'm unaware of this.
But the first thing I thought when he said that you can only have 8 outside, I was like, you can have more than that. I put 13 on a rollie. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, for the challenge, you can only have 8.
Yeah, you can only do 8. But anyway, that's your challenge, folks. You have to do what, 8? You have to do 8 settlements or 8 houses?
8 settlements, 8 houses around Kerbin.
Yeah.
Try to make it exotic.
You've got to colonize the planet.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for mission briefing, and of course, you know what that means. And now, another edition of As the Kerbin Turns.
Honey, I'm home.
Hello, dear. How was your day?
Oh, same as always. I slapped a bunch of parts together into a giant wheel shape and I rolled all over the place. But then I hit a bump and the whole thing exploded into a million pieces. Say, maybe I should call it the Blammy instead of the Rolly.
Tune in next time for another...
Or maybe the Boomy. Or Kaboomy.
Tune in next time for another...
Or how about the Explodey? Kablooey? Wham bam thank you mammy? Better stick with Rolly. Roll the music. Seriously, roll the music.
Tune in next time for another edition of As the Kerbin Turns. Wow, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if we can clap yet. There was quite a few false endings there.
You know, you gotta end on a high note, or you just gotta end. You know,
or you just keep going until you get tired.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on into But I Digress. And this week we want to talk about Robin Williams, who passed away this past week. He took his own life. And I have to say, the reason that I wanted to talk about this one is personal to me. I did not know him, but Robin Williams is somebody that I pretty much grew up with. I first saw him on HBO way back when. He was an unknown comedian. He was unlike anything I had seen at the time. I had seen elements of him, his act, but I had never seen it put together that way, and I had never seen that level of energy. And then, of course, watching his movies as he first ventured out and then became the big name that everybody knows. Nos was the one who actually was the first one to tell me. You broke the news.
Yeah, it was whenever we were meeting last week, just talk about what we're going to do in the episode, and like we already had everything set up and we're already recording it, and then I was like, hey, did you hear? You know, and
you walked in the door and you said, did you hear about Robin Williams? And my stomach dropped. Yeah. Because the minute you said that, my first thought was overdose, because I knew that he had some addiction problems. Yeah,
that and whenever it's the first thing you say to somebody, it's it's usually not good news.
Yeah.
So.
But after we did the podcast and you left, there was just this sadness, and it's the thing that I have noticed over the past week is everybody that I have come across that's talking about this all seem to have the same sadness.
Yeah.
And what I find amazing is that I don't care how old they are, what race they are, what gender they are, what political affiliation they have. Everybody loved Robin Williams, and everybody seems tremendously sad that he's gone.
Yeah.
And that right there, that is an incredible accomplishment. To be that loved and to be so loved across such a wide spectrum of people. And a part of it is when you look at his filmography or his body of work.
Yeah.
Almost every genre is represented.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, about the only thing, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I saw just like a straight out action movie.
No.
I don't think Robin Williams would have been in the Expendables 4.
Yeah.
But I mean, he pretty much, he was in comedies. He was in family films. He was animated,
Dramas.
drama, tragedies. He was in some very dark stuff. He was in some very offbeat stuff. I mean, he had an amazing talent. So, how did the news affect you?
It was whenever I heard it, I was at work. Everybody all at once was like, "What?" Like, there was just this collective, like, nobody could, believe it was happening until, like, that's all we were talking about,
Well, I knew that he had been that he had suffered from depression pretty much his whole life.
Yeah.
And so I was not surprised. What I was surprised about is a lot of people that I've spoken to seem to be unaware of it. I won't say because there's no way I'm going to put an upside on this. But there has been a very prominent discussion about depression, which I think has been sorely needed, because that's one of those illnesses that is badly misunderstood.
Yeah.
It is seen as a failure of character. It is seen as a weakness.
Yeah, or as just a mood or a phase.
Yeah. And something that, you can just cheer up, just get out of it. Gene Simmons of KISS is in a lot of trouble right now because he had done an interview about a month ago, and he was talking about depression, and he said, well, when I hear somebody says they're going to kill themselves, I'm like, go ahead, kill yourself. I don't care. What he said was stupid.
Yeah.
And it was hurtful and it was offensive. But in all fairness to Gene Simmons, he's being judged now in the wake of Robin Williams' suicide.
Yeah, so it's I mean, already a stupid opinion, but in the light of something massive like that, yeah.
But I will say that his comments, it's a good window into how people think about depression.
Yeah.
Because, he made the comment that, oh, if somebody wants to jump off a building, I'll go up there and push, and, and they don't want me to, and see right there, it's all fake. It's okay. There's a huge difference between being depressed and wanting somebody to do violence to you, but, and of course he's since apologized and whatever, but, it's a good window into the misunderstanding that people have about depression. Depression is an illness. And nobody says that it's a failure of character if you have diabetes. Nobody says that you're weak if you have cancer or something like that. I mean, it is a physical illness. Your brain is chemical.
Yeah.
Your moods and your thoughts and it's all chemical. And, some people have chemical issues that cause them to be depressed. And this is not a bad mood. This is so sad you can't get out of bed. This is every bone in your body aches. This is you have no energy. This is you can't see past the next minute. This is one of those things that unless you've experienced it, you really don't understand it.
Yeah.
And yet, whereas nobody would tell somebody with, I'll go back to diabetes, something chronic, nobody will tell somebody with diabetes how to handle it. But